Good evening. How are you? This is your first time joining me. This is Lisa Loring, here to do the reading for Tuesday, June 22nd. Can you believe June's almost over? We're in Gemini season now. Mercury is going direct today. Good news, right? It'll be a while before he gets moving, but it gets moving. Mercury is definitely hermetic. So some of our communication is going to start to improve. Maybe some of the, electronic issues. You might actually encounter some electronic issues, but today. But some of the roadblocks in terms of maybe some projects that we've been trying to work on because our communication and because our own inner thought process has been sort of blocking us, or we're working through stuff and now all of a sudden we kind of can start getting going. And a lot of it would be of the spiritual nature because of the degree at which it is going direct. So things that speak to us and really putting our heart and our soul into projects are going to be that much more easy for us to do. 8 of Wands kind of stuff going on. There's the bottom of the deck, and you can start shuffling. Going to use the Rider-Waite Tarot. I just love these giant cards. Giant cards. I've still been meditating on the card pull that I did over the weekend, so definitely go back and look at that and just kind of continue to reflect on that. I think some of the themes that came up in that are really ones of personal growth that I feel are very applicable to where we are in oh God, no fooling. The swords came back up. And the 9 of Wands. So yeah, I'm not going to pull these cards. This isn't part of the reading. This is going back to what I was just talking about. But just the ways that we do express ourselves and speaking to how we speak to our needs in any kind of situation. Relationships, I can't impress upon you enough impress upon anybody, that how relationships are, we have marriages all over our lives. Our concept of marriage, I feel, needs to expand. I think we have mini marriages I don't think there are many marriages, not only in our, specific marriages, but also work situations, friend situations. Any kind of relationship that is meaningful to you is a marriage. It's just a different version of it. And in those relationships, we're working with these lower parts of ourselves compared to these, higher parts of ourselves. Like in this particular deck, he is running away from the circus with a lot of the swords, whereas in the Shadowscapes he had this one sword he wasn't really sure, and there was this other sword that was ascending, and other swords that were trying to also ascend. So it represents the more base parts of ourselves that tend to run away from situations rather than confront them and not speak our needs, and we're defensive. So a lot of that, go back into that that reading. I'm not going to speak to it anymore because I don't, in this reading, because this is going to be for Tuesday, June 22nd. Anyway, but those themes are really important in terms of how we relate to one another, how we relate to ourselves. Do we hide from ourselves? And therefore, don't show up in our relationships without our masks. You're hiding from yourself. It's kind of funny, right? If you think about it that way, and then if you kind of laugh about it, be a little circus-like about it. It's like, really? I'm hiding from myself? But honestly, this is one. I think that we've just entered Cancer season, and Cancer season is definitely one where we're going to be looking at ourselves, especially then once Wheel of Fortune has come up. Yeah, when we can actually do that self-inventory and we stay in our own lane, we turn the wheel of fortune. God, cards are coming out. Okay, let me chill out. All right, what are the messages for Tuesday, June 22nd? What are the messages we have for Tuesday, June 22nd? Ooh, Page of Wands. Messages about where we want to take our career. Messages about, what our heart desires. It can be love. It can be, wherever whatever you're passionate about, whatever gets you fired up. The Wands is the suit of fire, okay? I love how he's really intent upon, I love how this is kind of like almost reflective of the Van Gogh painting behind me. He's looking up at that all these little growths that are coming off the top of the, I almost feel like he's planting this in a very deserty kind of place. It's a seeming desert, but yet there's things growing. Interesting. That's a page. So it's messages. All right. The page brings messages, delivers messages, receives messages. Are we receiving? It's almost like he's curious and he's in a very receptive stance. Yikes. Oh, King of Swords comes in the reverse. So our logic is probably, that's Mercury turning direct, probably. Our logic, our ability to use our logic is a little impaired. Probably so. We're going into Cancer. We are in Cancer season, just entering. So Cancer season is definitely an opportunity for us to be in our emotions. And the Three of Cups. So there's the emotions. Celebratory thing now, but that's good. King of Swords is chilling out a minute. He could be pretty super decisive guy, which I like about him. But maybe he's just okay. And then we this is still here. Okay, so we're still taking that. Is there another? I feel like there's another card that wants to come out. So let's pull it. So one more card that wants to come out for June 22nd. Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. Lots of twos in that. Tuesday, June 22nd. And we have a Five of Swords again. So we've got a King of Swords that's, and then we've got some foolishness going on. And an Ace of Swords at the bottom of the deck with some judgment. Awakening. Five of Cups. So not surprising. All right, so let's angle the cards, the camera down so we can take a look at what we've got. Let's turn everybody around so y'all can see them. All right, so these are the ones that came out first. These guys came out last. The cards are really jumpy tonight, which isn't surprising. You may feel like drinking. All right, so let's see. This Page of Wands is looking at this. He's got the look on his face. I see the flame at his brow, which is the typically the crown the third eye chakra is not really typically a fire, a place of passion, but in this instance, again, Cancer is one of the most intuitive signs. And it is the sign of emotion ruled by the moon. The moon is about to go into Sagittarius, so that might be why this, I'm feeling that some of this is, I'm feeling a Sagittarian influence on this. So influencing our moon and tapping into that intuition, and that's why the Temperance card came up the other day too, so there's that as well. That's also a card of Sagittarius. So okay, let me try to round this up a little. I've got a lot of like messages just like floating through my head. First of all, I see this Page of Wands as standing in a very deserty situation. There's nothing growing around the sky. It seems pretty barren, but yet he has a rod here, a wand that is growing despite what seems a very bleak environment. And he's looking up at this, and he's almost, he's not looking down, he's looking up, and this flame is at his brow on his hat. And he's, something, he's investing in his intuition. He's receiving messages through that third eye, through the intuition, through his feelings, through his emotions, coming into that, like I said, Cancer season kind of thing. And the moon is going into Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a fire sign. And he's looking to learn something, change his story. Sagittarius is also the storyteller. And going on a journey, that's also Sagittarian attribute. Traveling on a global scale. It's not travel on a local scale. That would be more Geminian, more of a Gemini thing, which we just came out of Gemini season. So some of the things that we learned from Gemini season and we're taking forward as we move out of this Mercury retrograde and through this moon that's about to go through Sagittarius and cross the galactic center this week before the full moon in Capricorn later in the week. But we're taking these local travels, so to speak, and we're moving forward on a more global level, which is very Mercury going direct kind of thing. Tapping in and changing our story. Using our feelings to feel our way into our new story, to use our heart and our feelings to grow something new, even though it's in a place that would seemingly not grow anything at all. We have to have a lot of faith in that. Sagittarius is also the sign of high spirituality, higher philosophy, higher learning. And this page is clearly in some kind of traveling clothes, right? Let's just consider that. The King of Swords is in the, so using our minds is not really going to serve us, and actually maybe a little impaired. Our highest form of decision, that logic, which the king is the highest in the suit of swords, and he's in the reverse. So using our logic is not really at our disposal right now, which again is not surprising for two reasons. Number one, Mercury is just going direct. Mercury is also going direct at the 16th degree of Gemini, and 1 and 6 equals 7, which is a sign, is a number of spirituality. So we come back to this piece again. Spirituality, soul, your soul purpose, your heart wisdom, that kind of thing. So the heart is definitely not in charge. I mean, the mind is definitely not in charge here. And ideally we do want to incorporate our heart wisdom to feed the, to send, to send in, the heart wisdom to combine with the head, our logic, our brain, our, frontal lobes are a higher form of thinking, but again, a little impaired because the Three of Cups can be definitely a sign of drinking and having a party and being a little, being a little impaired in our judgment. And so when you're impaired in your judgment, this kind of stuff is what's happening. You're in those lower decision, you're making decisions from a lower consciousness in yourself. Your more base, primal kinds of things, fearing he's got a lot of lack. He may feel like, he's literally running away from the party. He's running away from the circus. And he's looking back at these two swords, maybe thinking about how he can get those also, or maybe come back for them or something, and will anybody notice? And this is very lack based, very unstable. And it's a miracle he's not cutting up his hands with this. And, you've got the Five of Swords as well here accompanying him. So again, a card of conflict, card of ideology, card of people walking away from this guy who has the other two swords. Actually, three of them. And although he's smirking, they're walking away. They don't even want, they've even put down their swords. They're like, you know what, you can keep your damn swords. So when we aren't, and I'm not by any means suggesting that heart wisdom is going to get you in this kind of trouble. But at the bottom of the deck, we have, these kinds of, but again, we have this again, and then that Ten of Wands is here again. It's the back and forth of trying to not get so emotionally overwhelmed and overwrought, and that letting our emotions like run the roost, that our logic is completely thrown out the window. Like, you're literally, you're back into these, like, you're arguing over crazy stuff, and you're isolating yourself, and your friends are walking away from you, and this kind of really low behavior of running away with the swords, when those are perfectly good tents. I mean, there's people enjoying themselves in those tents probably, but yet you're running away from the party, or someone's running away from us because of some unfortunate letting our emotions totally a very imbalanced kind of situation. But if we go with the more divine kind of thought process, that higher thought process, and just take a step back, feel the feelings, let them move through you in total, and let them dissipate. And yes, maybe, step to the side for a minute. Take yourself out of the equation. Yes, normally a Five of Cups would be, crying over spilt milk sort of thing. But, maybe, yes, you go take yourself out of the equation for a minute, step aside and cry over your spilt milk. This is where you are working, although it's the judgment, you're awakening parts of yourself that, need to be integrated. You're including the emotional parts of yourself and the higher mind, and you're thinking on a higher level. And instead of being burdened by everything, here's the Ten of Wands. Page of Wands starts with one, but then all of a sudden it's got to be this 10 thing. Instead of being burdened and trying to carry all of this by yourself, you're actually working in a higher perspective with the Wands, the King of Wands, and you're marshaling, there's his salamander, you're marshaling your passions, again, back to that one wand. And you've got everything kind of, you're working in that more integrated, more aligned kind of way, in a very royal, sovereign perspective. So these are the stories, but these are it's very strong. I mean, the upside down King of Swords next to like a card of drinking, you can feel drunk by some of these emotions and feelings that are coming up out of nowhere. Welcome to Cancer season. And but you know what? We all spill the milk from time to time. But we just have to stand up and and take the higher road instead of this low road, and say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And instead of burying it, we're working from this more awakened perspective. Not being, yes, and maybe, yes, we pick up all the wands and we say, yes, I did this, this is what happened, I'm really sorry. So instead of running away and cutting up our hands even more, we're deciding to pick them up take them to the king and say, King, I'm sorry. I ran away with all the swords, but I'm back, and you know what? I'm ready to do this. And the king says, okay, great. I've got a job for you. And that's those messages coming in, messages of a new job. And then we go on a journey. Then we have choices. So anyway, that's a fun look at things. That's what's coming in for Tuesday. I have a feeling that's kind of stuff that we're going to be looking at over the course of the week. That's my sense. But I like it. I like it. Gives us stuff to work with, to get to know ourselves really better, and then to show up in our relationships. Like I said, so let's go back to the beginning of our conversation, which is, how do we show up in our relationships, as defensive and sneaky, or do we and hiding who we are, or can we show up for realsies? I love that. The cards are here to support us. The energy's there to support us being better in every moment. I'm going to leave it at that. I love you. We'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow night. Let's see what we have. Enjoy. Please like, share, subscribe. If you want a private reading, lisa.loring@gmail.com. Send me a question via email. That's fine too. PayPal and Venmo. That's where I accept donations. I think that's it. All right. You guys have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.